Great, that was a great video. Hi, I'm Tamar Heyman, Principal Product Manager at AWS AppFabric.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anush, and I'm a Partner Solutions Engineering Manager at Splunk.
Anush, thanks for being here today. I'm excited to share with everyone how we've been collaborating to together improve customers' overall security posture. So as you just heard us talk about, today a lot about the challenges of achieving observability over SaaS applications. You also saw how AppFabric addresses these challenges by providing normalized data from multiple applications in your preferred security tool. So in this session, we will dive into what customers can do with that normalized data in tools such as Splunk. But first, to set some context before we show that, what are some key questions that security analysts are asked to answer, and how does this data help? Security teams are responsible for ensuring that the overall security posture of a company is sound, and they're responsible for identifying and fixing vulnerabilities in a company's security systems and programs. They and their leaders ask themselves a few key questions. Who has access to sensitive data in my company? What are my users doing with company data? Have the settings on my applications changed, leaving us exposed? And so as we showed earlier, in order to answer these questions and get visibility into data that may be lost or exposed over applications, there's a lot of operational effort and work. And we also showed that with AppFabric, this fully managed service acts as a single source for all this application data and makes it available in your preferred security tool. So we wanted to deep dive some of these issues and challenges with Splunk. And earlier this year, we surveyed customers who were joint AWS and Splunk customers. We spoke with customers who were in financial services, customers in media and entertainment, companies that are in professional services. We spoke with CISOs, cybersecurity professionals and leaders, cloud security architects. We spoke with companies who had tens of thousands of users or companies that had just a few hundreds. And they all told us similar things, that they love their security tool for the powerful threat detection capabilities that it offers, but that they would really like for their security teams to spend less effort having to get that data into tools that they love using, like Splunk. Anush, what were some of the themes that your customers told you?
Sure, yeah. Based on our survey results, here are some key findings, challenges, and priorities when it comes to securing SaaS applications. About 62% of our survey respondents said that it is indeed hard to ingest and normalize SaaS audit logs. And an overwhelming 96% of our survey respondents claimed that they would like to have logs normalized and into Splunk. And about 83% of our survey respondents are interested in a solution that can get normalized ingest data into Splunk to solve their top 3 security use cases. And those are improper apps and permissions across apps, detecting suspicious login activity, and tracking app configuration changes.
And so we're partnering with Splunk as a supported solution to address these exact pain points. And together, we're helping security teams extract more value out of their preferred solutions. And so here it's important to call out a core tenet that you may have heard today in other sessions, which is that AppFabric meets users and companies in their preferred user interface. So we're not introducing a new security tool that customers need to adopt in addition to their existing preferred solutions, nor are we introducing a new threat detection capability that they need to adopt and use. But rather, we're acting as a middle layer between their SaaS applications and their security and observability tools they're using, and providing that aggregation, normalization, and enrichment to help them extract more value. And so, as you can see on this chart, AppFabric acts as that single source of data and as that middle layer. And customers have a lot of choice. They have a choice in the infrastructure services they use, in the SaaS applications they're using and deploying to their employees and contractors to make them more engaged and productive. They have choice in the way they're consuming these audit logs. So they have a choice whether they want to get these audit logs normalized into OCSF or raw, in JSON or Parquet. And they have choice in the destination, where AppFabric will send that data to a customer's Amazon S3 bucket or a Kinesis Firehose. And lastly, they have a choice on the security tool they're using to make sense of all this data. They can use a tool like Splunk, they can use AWS services, and they can use their own homegrown solutions. So how might this experience actually look like for a particular security persona? Here we have Krista. Krista is a security engineer in a financial institution. She spends hours each month just managing data pipelines for her company's ever-growing portfolio of SaaS applications and having to manage those integrations and add-ons with Splunk and normalizing the data. She would like to add 3 more applications that are not currently covered and get that data into her security tool, but she doesn't have the bandwidth to carve out weeks in order to do that work. So with AppFabric, Krista is able to just set up ingestions from these 3 applications using the AWS Fabric console that we demoed earlier. And the data is being delivered already normalized. So it's already compatible with Splunk. And in Splunk, she already has a Kinesis Firehose set up. So the data starts flowing immediately and normalized and compatible into Splunk. And because she uses Splunk regularly, she has set up alerts there to notify her, event-based rules, that let her know when certain events or behaviors are occurring on SaaS apps that she should react to. For example, when an administrator changes privileges, when public sharing is enabled on applications. And when that happens, Krista will go to Splunk, look at the event timeline, and search for other events that may be associated with the user that triggered the notification. Anush, why don't you show us what Krista can do in Splunk with that data and how she investigates such events?
Sure, yeah. Let us now see how Krista responds to the alert and how she uses Splunk to analyze and investigate the threat. Okay, gonna quickly connect. Did you see? Oh, okay.
Great.
Okay, can't see it here.
Yeah.
All right, so like Tamar said, Krista has already integrated all of the Fabric SaaS application logs to get into Splunk. So she gets into the Acme Corp Splunk instance. She lands on the AppFabric overview dashboard. On the very left, you see all the different SaaS applications that are sending logs to Splunk. This all comes through Firehose, so they're all real time. Next, she looks at the alerts panel where there's a couple of alerts. One of them is the assigned privilege alert that she actually got notified for from Slack. She then looks at her KPI panels. These KPIs are based out of OCSF categories and event classes. She sees that they are trending. The Identity and Access Management OCSF category KPI gathers information about system authentication and access control models. The Group Management event class within the same category generates events such as add user, remove user, configuration changes, or app permission changes. The Application Activity KPIs is another OCSF category that generates events about web applications and services. The Web Resource Activity event class within the same category generates events like create, delete, update across different applications. These KPIs are customizable, and Krista has set these threshold values based on the daily usage or the events that she's seen on any given day. So she understands that there is some unusual activity within her environment today. She scrolls down and gets to the traffic by application and vendors. There she notices that about 95% of the traffic is being generated by a single application, in this case, Zoom. That makes her curious. She wants to look at the event timeline by application. So she navigates to the activities event timeline by application and chooses Zoom. She sees results similar to her KPIs. It looks like there's multiple add users, create and delete rules, and update configuration changes that's happened within Zoom. She looks at the timeline, and she quickly notes in her notebook the specific timeline when these events start to occur. She's now interested to look at activity chart by actors. While she goes over there, she also notices that nearly 75% of the traffic is being generated by 2 users. By the overlay line, by the cumulative percentage overview line on the Pareto chart. She's also surprised to see that about 54% of traffic is generated by a single user. She hovers over the bar and notices quickly that it is being generated by Johnny Hooker, whose email domain does not match with the company domain. She's suspicious of this, and she drills right into the chart. She sees a timeline of events. It looks like Johnny has triggered multiple events over the course of past few hours. This seems unusual. She's interested in looking at the events by activity name. Activity name is another field within the OCSF event class of web resource activity event class. So she chooses to just interact by point and click, selects the top values by time, and gets to a time chart query. Within Splunk, it's called a time chart query, and looks at all the different activities by Johnny. This seems to match with her KPIs as well. She sees, again, the same add user, create, delete roles, among other configuration changes. She dives deeper into some of the events. For instance, the add user. It looks like there's been multiple group admins added and roles added within Zoom in the past few hours, and a couple of update configuration changes, like for instance this one, where Johnny has actually gotten into Dropbox and changed files and folders, share permissions outside of the team. All of this looks suspicious to Krista. She also notices the timeline of these events. She quickly jumps back to her overview dashboard, wants to take a look at the alert that she actually was notified about, which is the assigned privileges alert. The assigned privileges alert event is basically showing us that Johnny, or Krista, that Johnny has used Slack to change his role to admin. Now, this seems, Krista is suspicious about this because Johnny's email does not match with the company domain, so she's not sure how Johnny gained access into the systems and kind of bumped his privileges by himself. At this point, she's sort of officially concerned. So she quickly jumps onto a Splunk search window and writes a flawless query. This is to search across all access management logs across all applications. And within like a millisecond or so, she obviously sees the result here, and she notices that Johnny has actually gained access through Henry, who already has an email address through the company. So he's an employee of the company, but Henry has somehow provided Johnny access to some of those applications. This is a more detailed event of what actually happened. It seems like either Johnny impersonated Henry, or Henry gave Johnny access to Slack and to Dropbox in this case, and changed the admin role. And this has occurred exactly a few minutes before 10 a.m. She takes down a note of his email address, the session UID, and the user IDs. Now in her mind, she's trying to stitch together the events, and it looks like Johnny came into the system through Henry using Dropbox, jumped onto Slack, changed the admin privileges, and then started generating a list of events like adding users, removing configuration, updating configurations within Zoom. Now Krista feels like she's figured out what the problem is. She breathes a quick relief. She collects her thoughts together. She tries to put this all in a notebook. Now she wants to take actions, and she can take any automated mitigation actions through Splunk.
Awesome. That was very cool. So let's talk a bit about what Krista can do and what are the benefits of using Splunk with AppFabric data.
Yeah.
Because you said there is stuff she can do now with automated response and other things. So why don't we share a bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So we just observed how Krista used Splunk to investigate the threat. But let me summarize some advantages of Splunk that will help any analyst to investigate such threats and malicious activities. First is data ingestion. Right? Splunk already has a good integration, strong integration with AWS. We have the Splunk add-on for AWS, which is the key component here. It helps ingest data from S3 or in real time from Kinesis Firehose, right? And which is natively supported using the Splunk Firehose connector. The add-on also supports ingesting events through Amazon Security Lake, right? So we could get events in OCSF data in Apache Parquet file format. Mm-hmm. And finally, the add-on also provides users to ingest data for many other AWS data sources, so which means that analysts can have a unified view of both their infrastructure and SaaS application logs within Splunk. The OCSF schema. We already know that Splunk is good at reading data schema on the fly. But however, with OCSF, we've reduced that time and effort that is required to ingest and normalize the data. With OCSF structured format, Splunk searches become performant, the data visualizations are more accurate, so data exploration experience becomes much nicer. And analysts can get to the analysis and detection stage much quicker, and they don't have to worry about any data pre-processing tasks.
Which was great to see on that demo too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And analyze and detect. From the demo, you obviously noticed that how Splunk simplifies analysis of data, and either with simple point and click or custom searches, Splunk makes it really easy to detect malicious activities. And not only that analysts can leverage Splunk framework to write their own searches and write their own detections, they could also use Splunk's advanced security analytics and ML capabilities and add them, apply it on their data. And finally, automation and response. Splunk has a comprehensive SOAR solution, which is security orchestration and automation response that helps users take immediate actions to mitigate threats. And Splunk SOAR comes with about 400 plugins, and users can write playbooks on top of those plugins to take mitigation actions in an automated fashion. Additionally, Splunk's marketplace, Splunkbase, also has nearly hundreds of integrations with alert actions functionality that can help analysts resolve and respond to threats effectively. And there are so many more areas to explore that AppFabric users can benefit from Splunk.
Fantastic, awesome. And so it was an awesome demo. It was great to show what customers can do with this. And we're hearing from our customers that they really are excited about the value proposition that AppFabric is bringing. They're saying that this solution provides critical visibility into SaaS activity and helps them improve their security posture. And they like how we're helping simplify complexity faced by their security teams. So thank you for joining us today. It was great to have you listen to this session. We have a few minutes to take questions, but do stay with us because after this session, we will show you what customers can do with SaaS application data from AppFabric and AWS Analytics Solutions. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Tamara and Anush.
Thanks.
I do have to say, Johnny's going to have a couple questions tomorrow. Surprise meeting for him. A couple comments that came in from Twitch. One was saying, configuring API ingestions is tedious and time-consuming. You may run into API rate limits. So this is great. This is very powerful for a real-world security team. That's a great comment.
Awesome.
Another one, simplified event ingestion to Splunk for SaaS apps is an outstanding improvement and will create a tremendous efficiency for SOC teams. Both those great comments coming in.
Great.
Couple questions. Tamara, what are some of the ways in which AppFabric and Splunk can help customers get more value out of their SaaS app audit logs?
Great. So yeah, I think we touched on a few of these here. There's a few core benefits, and maybe I can touch on some, and you can touch on some more. But I think from one aspect for sure is that they no longer have to deal with the management and maintenance of integrations or do the normalization or worry about having to deal with upstream data issues with each vendor separately that provides these apps. And also, like we've discussed and showed, I think the demo showed that very clearly, and it was great to see that when the data is normalized into OCSF, a security analyst that's using Splunk's features and capabilities to run search event, the event timeline or search for other activities that were generated by the same users is really powerful because it can extract the most immediately relevant data pretty quickly and standardize it across applications. Anush, I don't know if you have any other thoughts on this to add.
Yeah, sure. I think with the ability to send this data over to Splunk, with infrastructure logs, you get to expand the attack surface coverage, right? And also you get the unified view of having both your infrastructure logs as well as SaaS application logs in one place, in a single console.
Correct.
Very nice. And then a question for Anush specifically. Now that it's been announced as generally available, how can Splunk customers get started integrating with AppFabric?
Yes, The Splunk add-on for AWS can already help ingest multiple data sources, and specifically for AppFabric, the add-on connects with S3 or Kinesis Firehose. So customers can use either of those services to ingest data into Splunk.
Okay, very nice.